Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was a big disappointment, and I'm here to tell you exactly why using today's word of the day, expectation. So here goes, the title. It set us up to fail with the title. Plain and simple, folks, that's where this journey takes us, and it's also where our expectations begin to first get hurt. Because let's face it, you'd have to be as clueless as Stephen Grant to not realise this current MCU phase is hurtling us into the multiverse. Be it Disney Plus shows such as Loki and What If, our most recent Marvel Cinematic outing with Spider-Man No Way Home, or even Sony's somewhat connected attempt with the "we're making this anyway, so shut up" Morbius. I know, it's a hot mess, let's leave that for another day. It's sort of clear to see they're building for a multiversal related something or other endgame style toppler, and that's just it. They're building towards something potentially much, much grander and even crazier. Something you might exclaim does doff a cap to a multiverse of madness. And therefore, this never quite goes all the way in. So due to this, and heading back to the original point here, since we will touch upon the rest of that point later on, I genuinely think the title is culprit numero uno. Back when this movie was announced at San Diego Comic-Con in July 2019, yup, July 2019, do you remember those days? Before the whole world metaphorically fell off a cliff? Good times. Anyway, before all that, it created genuine excitement. The multiverse hadn't properly reared its head at this point. Sure, we'd heard a bit of a white lie mention of it from a certain Quentin Beck during Spider-Man Far From Home, and maybe we'd had a tiny taste of what was to come thanks to Endgame's time heist shenanigans, but really nothing that specifically called out or hinted towards the multiverse becoming something more within the MCU. A name like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness caused quite a stir online, and as such this immediately sent an already very invested and deeply passionate fandom into overdrive. Madness, it claims. Madness. It's going to be wild. Everyone's going to pop up. Mephisto, Nightmare, Shumagorath, alternate reality previously seen heroes and villains. Wait, Wanda is in it. Oh my god, the X-Men, Magneto, House of friggin' M! The reality of the movie we finally got was much different. We got a view of a few dozen universes as well as an actual plot involving 3 specifically. They could have really saved themselves here by perhaps calling it Enter the Multiverse or something that tempered expectations a little. Enter would indicate a start of something, a tease, not the full thing. We're only entering this crazy new plot device. It's pretty clear we are heading for a possible Secret Wars scenario, so claiming this movie was a multiverse of madness when it was merely an amuse-bouche of what was to come really created the tentpole that collapsed and became the stick to beat itself with. Anyway, next, the trailers. Good, insert your chosen deity here. I could do a whole video on modern day trailers, maybe another time. I'm definitely not the first person to say this, but by and large, modern day trailers suck. As a marketeer, it genuinely hurts me when you see trailers these days which either completely give away the entire plot and or story arc of a movie. Here's looking at you trailer editors of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, or that show so much in relation to hidden reveals that it completely takes the enjoyment of witnessing it for the first time at the cinema away from you. I can only describe this as akin to telling somebody exactly how a meal tastes before they even get a chance to try and book a table. I don't get it, and I wish they'd stop doing it and head towards the truly short snippets of stuff with minimal real context and epic trailer voiceovers that we used to get in days gone by. Yeah, they were shit, but at least they caused a little confusion and intrigue. So yeah, side rant aside about trailers, back to how trailers for this movie proceeded to create an expectation which unravelled the reality of its viewing experience. See what I did there? If you know, you know. Pop. The trailers for this movie eventually caved to the issues I just mentioned and immediately told us things which would have been far more exciting and mysterious had they avoided them or hidden them better. Trailers showing Wanda as the villain, Pat Stew returning in quite frankly the only role he was ever going to return in, and continuous nods towards the Illuminati and a possible alternative appearance Iron Man via returning Iron Legion really didn't help a movie titled In the Multiverse of Madness. Again, the internet went wild. A possibly diminutive yet charmingly batshit crazy A-list celebrity might be making an appearance as a beloved character he almost was cast as. Wanda may bring forth mutants into the MCU after finally being exposed to them in this movie. She's using the Darkhold! Here comes Mephisto! I mean, credit where it's due, Marvel for the most part tend to be the kings, and or queens, of playing a red herring or two in their trailers. We all remember that Avengers Infinity War one, right? But that wasn't really properly utilised here, so sadly credit will only get you so far with Mr. Doctor the film fella. Anywho, on to the next reason I think this movie just didn't fully hit the spot for some of us. The waiting. It's been a bloody long time since July 2019. Let's not go over what's happened the last few years, but it's felt even longer if we're going to be honest with ourselves. That's a long time to be expecting a movie, and an even longer time to be expecting a movie with a title such as In the Multiverse of Madness. There isn't really much more to add to this point, it's just been a long time from the initial announcement to the eventual release. It's a lot of time for you to mull over what we may have ended up getting, a big enough amount of time for fan theories to run amok, clickbait sites to post fan art as fact, and just about everyone everywhere to have their say on just why this multiverse is so gosh damn maddening. Right, on to the last reason a few of us are in a bit of a multiverse of sadness about this movie: the uncertainty. It's a big one, is uncertainty, and this actually ties in nicely with just about everything already mentioned, or in fact likely previously touched upon so far. Uncertainty of what might happen during that time we won't talk about anymore through fear of being depressed just thinking about it. Uncertainty of directors, with Scott Derrickson, the director of the first movie, stepping down due to alleged creative differences, and Marvel therefore then heading towards an oldie but a goldie with a mixed bag of a past in relation to the superhero genre in Sam Raimi, and possibly the biggest uncertainty going forward after the record-breaking 10-year feat that was Avengers Endgame. What's actually next? And how do they top that? Phase 4 was a mystery to us back in 2019, and in fairness, appears to still be a bit of a mystery to us here in 2022. As mentioned before, it seems we are heading for that multiverse or big finish climax somewhere down the road, but we've also had much more grounded stories taking place, with the likes of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Hawkeye. Adding to this, we've also got a third theme at play with a more cosmic element, something not quite pushing the envelope of alternate realities, but still heading towards something much different to what we've been used to over the past 10 years. Egyptian pantheons, soul suckers from a reality somehow accessible via Earth, beings which created everything, apparently, and then set up humanoid-like robot things as million-year egg timers. It's been a weird and somewhat hard to pin down ride so far, and it's not promising to get any easier to understand with supernatural forces such as the vampire-slaying Blade on the horizon as well. All in all, this uncertainty of where a beloved franchise is heading only adds to the expectations we had for this movie. And as mentioned, this build-up towards something even bigger on the multiversal spectrum seems to have been the noose around this movie's neck, preventing it from flexing some of the crazier ideas it may well have done, had they not been leading to something much bigger later on. If they had actually done something much bigger in this movie, how on earth would they possibly top it in a Secret Wars movie if they were covering the same ground as this sequel to some degree? It all leads back to that bloody title and the expectation it causes. See, it's all linked to this, almost like I thought about it. But anyway, here's the thing. Is it really that bad? Well, no, but also sort of. Let me explain. Notice I haven't actually condemned this movie for its cinematic or creative choices. Sam Raimi really does Raimi this movie up, and if you loved his Evil Dead movies or the original Recipe Spidey films, like myself, then you're sure to get a kick out of his PG-13 spooks and scares, as well as his almost comic book-esque way of delivering a superhero movie. The cameos we did get are also bang on the money, and as much as you can lament the what could have been options, the ones we got were particularly tasty. The dialogue has been brought into question a bit by reviewers, but honestly I kinda dig the silliness it brought with it. It doesn't take itself too seriously considering the context and potential ramifications of the story that's unfolding, which I sort of really enjoyed. This lack of severity ultimately turns the movie into a fairly self-contained story, something not too dissimilar to the 90s and early noughties Marvel movies of old, as well as the original Phase 1 slate of the MCU cinematic machine. It gives it a somewhat nostalgia-filled modern twist on a time in cinema we can sort of thank for what we now have today. Overall, it's sort of a nice change of pace to head back in that direction, even if it is a little jarring considering what we're used to. At the end of the day, it's really not a bad movie, but with the weight of expectation it was carrying, it was always going to be held back from being a truly great one unless they truly knocked it out of the park. It's this level of expectation built up from its title, the trailers, the build-up of time, and the general uncertainty of where this phase is going, which I believe left a bit of a sour taste in a few people's mouths, including my own, and sadly, that sort of sucks, and makes Doctor Strange 2 just a little bit disappointing, unfortunately. Anyway, what did you think? Let me know below, and if you like this, then why not check out this one, and stick around for the next one. Peace!